they came out and they removed a pile of junk that was $1,200 and they were gone in 2 hours. So they made like $600 an hour and there were two guys there. At that moment, that's when I realized like, hey, there's a business here. Like I could probably start this business. I spent $6,000. I bought a utility trailer for like $2,000 and I made $10,000 my very first month doing junk removal.
Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. We have the Junk King on the program, Kyle Landwehr out of O'Fallon, Missouri. I just relocated to Kansas City, Missouri. Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you inviting me on here.
Yeah, we just were talking briefly. I didn't have any idea about your history. I did do some, like that you lived in Missouri, but I didn't know that you were on Pineda's podcast. I didn't know any of that stuff. So that's pretty cool that we know some of the same people. Tell me a little bit about your story. First of all, you're super young. How young are you?
I'm 23 years old.
Damn. So we were just talking, and I told you like one of the most viral videos I had on TikTok was a dump trailer video. It was like when I first starting, it just took off. When I was reviewing show prep yesterday, I was looking at the fact that you're 23, your amazing track record of already starting a junk business and saying, like, obviously people, that's a good business. So tell me about your story, where you're at right now and how you got there, Kyle.
You got it, man. So back in, we'll say 2019 or so, I was a union electrician. And the reason why I became a union electrician is because that's all I knew, right? My family is very blue collar. My family is all electricians. So I grew up thinking that that was the best job that anybody could ever have, making $100,000 a year. You were rich. And I did that job for about a year after dropping out of college. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So that was like my first stepping stone, we'll say. And I did that job for about a year, and I showed up extremely desperate every single day to make more money, to start flipping houses. Real estate was like the first interest to me. I started seeing all these guys like you and Grant Cardone and Pineda all over social media talking about real estate. And I'm like, man, I want to quit my job. I want to start investing into real estate. And, you know, I started meeting some people and stuff like that. And I started trying to make offers on properties, but I had no idea what I was doing. Towards kind of when COVID started to become a thing, that's when I really tried to get my first deal. And then they said, okay, you know, let's see your financials. And I had money tied up in all these different places, and they were pretty hard on me to get hard money. I didn't really know how to raise money in general, so I knew little. And that deal kind of fell through, and I lost all hope when it came to real estate because I was just no real estate guy or entrepreneur to begin with. And again, I was very desperate with my job, and I wanted to quit and be able to start my own business.
Why do you use the word desperate? Just because you're young and it's just like brand new for you. So why do you say desperate when you're talking about that? Yeah,
I think desperate. I always use that word, and I feel weird saying it, but like that's truly how I felt. It was just like I wanted more. You know, it was like it made me sick every single day that like I go on social media and I saw people doing exactly what they wanted with their lives, and then here I was unhappy showing up to a job every single day that I didn't want to. Like I wanted more. So I was desperate to make that leap. I just didn't know. There were so many specifics that I didn't know on how to do that. And I didn't have the right people in my corner to push me to go do those things.
Right.
So I about a year prior to that, my grandpa passed away, and we got his house. Like my dad got his house, right? And at the time, I was like trying to find ways to make extra money, that sort of thing. And so we had his house. We had to figure out how we were going to sell it, and it was full of junk. And my dad called a company called 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which is the biggest junk removal business in the world. And he hired them.
And pretty new.
Yeah. And they came out and they removed a pile of junk that was $1,200 and they were gone in 2 hours. So they made like $600 an hour, and there were two guys there. And at that moment, that's when I realized, like, hey, there's a business here. Like, I could probably start this business. And during COVID, again, I was working at Anheuser-Busch as an electrician, and they ended up sitting me because, you know, it was just there was a shutdown and all this different things. So they were sitting me temporarily. And after I was sitting for a while, that's what they called it, and I wasn't working, I told myself I'm never going to go back to do this again. And I ended up quitting that job when they called me and said, "Hey, Kyle, we need you back." I said, I'm not coming back. I quit. I appreciate all of you guys, appreciate what you've done. And the one thing that I knew was I could probably start a junk removal company. So I quit that job. I spent $6,000. I bought a utility trailer for like $2,000, and I made $10,000 my very first month doing junk removal. And by the way, I was making $28,000 a year before that. I was making $15 an hour roughly as an apprentice.
As an electrician?
Yeah, as an apprentice. They start off, I don't know what it is now, but it was about 15 to 17 bucks an hour as an apprentice. But you could get up to like 45 or whatever. But I was brand new. So I was making $28,000 a year. I did $10,000 my very first month, and I realized like, wow, I could make a lot of money doing this. So I just put my head down and started grinding, and I was 20 years old at the time. I had one of my buddies working for me. I was maintaining about 50% profit margins, and the first full year in business, I did just under $500,000 in revenue and just under $200,000 in profit. And 5 months into the business, I broke my ankle on one of the job sites, and I thought I was going to have to shut the business down. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
So I ended up asking the one employee that I had, I said, "Hey, man, do you think I taught you enough to where you could go run your own truck and I'll get you the leads and that sort of thing?" And he said, "I think so." So I went to go hire another person, and I laid in bed for the next 2 months, and I scaled my company at the time from like $20,000 a month to about $50,000 a month. Once I was healed, I got an office. I hired an office manager. I hired a real estate mentor, because what was happening was there were all these properties that we were getting called out to give clear outs for. And a lot of these people, like, they didn't expect to pay $5,000 for a clear out. So we would lose these jobs. I mean, I bid jobs up to $250,000. And a lot of these people, like, I would just see myself not land these jobs. And I'm like, how can I some way capitalize in this, even if it's not junk removal? So I realized that, hey, a lot of these people want to sell their home, kind of like the grandpa situation that I gave you. Like, somebody could have just bought the home, right, and left the junk in there. So I hired my mentor. I came back within the first week of me coming back from that mentor. I closed 2 wholesale deals. They didn't close, but I put them under contract.
Right.
About a month later, they both ended up closing. So one property I cleared out for $3,500. He came back to me 2 weeks later, said, "Hey, man, I need to find a buyer for this. Can you help me?" And I got $5,000 assignment fee on that one. And then I made $5,000 on the next one. And then I became addicted to that process. My next deal, it was a $400 junk removal job is what they called me out to do. I ended up buying the property off of them. It was a $400 junk removal job. So
I thought you said 400,000.
No. And I raised 100% of the money on that deal, and I made $67,000 profit. And then my junk removal business really started to scale. Because I was increasing the profit margins with these real estate deals, that sort of thing. We started offering demolition as well, so we were going in and gutting homes for real estate investors. So we did that as well. A little bit of hauling services, hauling material from point A to point B. So I did that, scaled it to a 7-figure company. I started spending a lot of money to go to masterminds and, Yacht Masterminds and coaching programs. And what I learned from these big influencers is, man, you need to, the biggest thing you have going for you right now is social media. And they told me, you don't realize how easy it is for you because people can relate with you a lot. They can't really relate with, the person who had the mansion and the cars and all this stuff. It's hard for people to relate with that person, but it was easy for them to relate with me. So I started building my brand, and every single day I was posting content. I get, 2 likes, 10 likes. But I was staying disciplined, focused on the process. Yeah. And one day I got a video on TikTok. It had 175,000 views.
Nice.
And I woke up the next day. I had, probably 1,000 leads, honestly, of people saying, "Hey, will you show me how to start a junk removal company?" And I'm like, man, there's maybe a business here. So I started hopping on the phone calls with these people.
Right.
Selling them a product I did not have just to see if it would even work.
I love you, man. That's awesome. That's true entrepreneurship.
And I ended up making $27,000, basically is what I collected. And I was telling
So what am I getting, Kyle, not to interrupt you, but what am I getting? I know exactly what you're talking about because I got people hitting me up all the time. So when you're selling them, you have some sort of a formula in your head, like what your deliverables are gonna be for these people. What were you charging them, and what were your deliverables at that point in time, Kyle?
So at the beginning, it was very inconsistent, is what I'll say, right? Because I would have said a higher amount, and then if they weren't willing to pay me that amount, I was a lot more negotiable than I am now, because I was just seeing if it was going to work. But what they would get is at the time, I didn't know what I was going to sell, so I told these people they could start flying out to my office, and that's when I really determined what I was going to give them. So I quit calling people, and I built a blueprint, is what I called it, that broke the business down of everything that they needed to know to start and scale the business to multiple 5 figures a month. So that's what they got. And the first day I would go over the blueprint with them at my office. The second day they would ride on my trucks. And I coached a handful of people like that, doing that. And I kind of fell in love with helping people and just doing that sort of business in general. And my office flooded on Christmas. So it was a 3-floor office. It looked like a house. Ooh. And a pipe bursted on the 3rd floor and flooded the whole entire thing. And it was like a full gut rehab, I think $200,000. And we had to move out of that office. And I had like a podcast room I just built. I had all these things. We're all set up. And then I decided I was going to do all online. So that's what we do right now. We do all online. We'll have events and stuff like that in the future, but it's all online. And it really started to pick up. I had a buddy, and sorry I'm giving a long story here, but
I love it, man. Keep going.
I had a buddy who was coaching Airbnb arbitrage, and he was 20 years old, making $1 million a month. And he went on a podcast, and I said, "Hey man, how'd you get on that podcast?" And he said, "Oh, I DM'd him or something like that." And I said, "Well, did it cost anything?" He said, "Yeah, I paid him $25,000. And I said, "Okay." The first thing I did is I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go reach out to somebody and try to get on their podcast. So I hit up Pineda and I DM'd him and I said, "Hey man, can I buy my way onto your podcast?" And I was impatient, but he read it and didn't reply, and I just replied back, "How does $25,000 sound?" is exactly what I said. I mean, I'm sure we all want more buyers like that, but that's who I was.
I'm not even charging you a nickel, brother.
I
love that you did that. Okay, so keep going. This is good.
So he had his guy call me, and I sent the wire over, and I flew out a couple weeks later, and I did this podcast, and it was like unlike me, right? It was very unlike me. I wasn't used to that culture or the that surrounding, which was really cool to see the operation that he had going on. And I wasn't sure if I wasn't sure if my money was well spent. And then about 30 days later, that podcast aired. And then my my coaching business, we were booking 10 to 15 appointments a day, and scaled to a 6-figure a month coaching business. And so that kind of got me off the ground. And then in January, I was reinvesting a lot of money back into ads and stuff like that, and I didn't really get anything that converted really well. And I started doing something called Instagram shoutouts. And I've never said this ever, by the way. I've never talked about it.
Good. So let's get the juicy stuff.
So I started doing Instagram shoutouts. And the whole concept behind it is you go on to like business pages like Millionaire Mentor and just like you want to call them meme pages almost that have a lot of followers, but they're all related to business. And I had copywriters that were writing copy about my story, and we would basically buy post on these pages, and I had no idea what I was doing, by the way. And I started gaining 5,000 followers a day, 10,000 followers a day. I was getting 1,000 DMs every single day. Like we should have been doing $1 million a month easily, but I had no idea what I was doing. I was never used to that. And
I thought that's incredible.
I mean, I had so many DMs, it was unbelievable. 10,000 plus that were, in the message request. And so what ended up happening was I started hiring a team. I was hiring setters, I was hiring closers, and we had 1,500 booked appointments come in 2 weeks just for high ticket, coaching business basically, which is absolutely insane. And, just with 200 book calls a month, you could be a, $150,000 a month company. We had, 1,500 in 2 weeks.
And what's let's real quick, just so we can back up just a little bit, because you're going a mile a minute. I'm enjoying every freaking second of it, but there's a lot of things. I'm going to lose my freaking every question I got. So I just want to stop. Let's pump the brakes, and I just want to get into a couple things, Kyle, real quick. So
let's do it.
All right. First of all, I love the fact that you paid Pineda $25,000. That is fantastic. I'm sure he was happy to accept that money, and as anybody would be. I mean, as anybody would be. And I think for you, it shows that you got a lot of balls. Okay, for lack of a better word, you just got a lot of balls. I wouldn't pay somebody I would pay Joe Rogan $25,000. You know what I mean? Probably more. But that just shows a lot of courage. So the shout outs, at first when you were talking about it, I was like, I didn't understand what you're talking about, but now I know. So you were paying. So how much? I know the Millionaire. The name of my coaching program is Millionaire Mentorship. So the Millionaire Mentor, I know that Instagram page. So you were going to influencer pages, just basically, like you said, meme type of pages that are just reproducing content of stuff that people like. And you were asked, and what were you doing there? So because I might do this. I like this idea. I want to know exactly how you did it.
So I hired an agency, and I'm going to be honest. I was paying $15,000 to $25,000 a month is what it cost. So it was a lot of money. Again, going back to the big balls thing. That's what I had at that moment. And they would write all my copy. So they had a full understanding of who I was. They knew my story, and they'd start writing copy, and then they would just go, deal with that page directly and buy spots for me to post. And that's what we were doing. And off these, they would do one post per day on my personal page, which would build credibility to where when we would push traffic to my page, that's where we'd have call to actions on my stories and stuff like that. And people started.
Were these going through a funnel?
Yeah, we also had a funnel as well. And at the time we were doing a VSL funnel. So a 7 to 15 minute
video
VSL
sales
funnel.
letter for those guys who don't know what the hell that is, because it's funny when you become a coach or get in the online space. I just spent the last 3 years relearning an entire industry. What you're talking about, when people are saying VSL and everything else, it's you have to learn an entire different vocabulary. Just like when you wire houses or when you wire buildings, you're what the hell is this? It's just a new vocabulary as well. So that's awesome. So video sales letter. So that was what they had. And then they went through a funnel. What funnel were you using?
So I was using
software.
ClickFunnels. So I was using a ClickFunnels funnel, and I had somebody create it for me. It wasn't the best, I will say. And when I say I had 1,500 book calls come in, where those calls were coming from, where I had setters in my DMs that were setting appointments, but just through the link that was in my bio, we had so many book calls coming through there that weren't necessarily set, right? We had people calling them, but when you run a coaching business, you don't want people to book out more than 3 days in advance. Otherwise, they lose interest, right?
Speed to lead.
So I had it open 30 days or 45 days or something like that. So we had 1,500 book appointments that filled up 2-month time frame. So then our show rates went down to 30%. We had no automation in place. We had no email. We had no texting. My setters kept on quitting because based on the link in my bio, that was booking way more calls than they would. So my calendar was always full, and they couldn't really make any money, even though there was an incredible amount of leads on the table. Yeah. And we scaled to a $200,000 a month company, leaving probably $800,000 a month on the table because I had no infrastructure. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was
still making money.
Yeah, I was making money, and I felt
still making money.
I would say I felt I felt like I lost $1 million. That's exactly how I felt. And I just felt like the one time I had something that went really good for me, I blew it. So I was pretty down on myself. And I always wanted to do a webinar because I saw my buddy who was making a lot of money doing it, but I was scared to do one. I was uncomfortable to do one, and I didn't want to change anything of what I was doing. So this agency told me, hey, Kyle, you already dropped the ball pretty hard. Let's at least try to get some of these people in the door So let's just host a webinar in the next week. Can you do that? I said, yeah. So I built this presentation, really had no idea what I was doing. I hop on this webinar. By the way, there was 1,700 people on there. 1,700 people on there after an hour and a half, and we weren't like buying Facebook ads or Instagram ads or anything.
All
like
organic,
that. Basically, other than the IG shout outs. And we just pushed, I just promoted it, right? Took the VSL funnel out of my Instagram bio, and I ended up selling a $1,500 offer at the very end of that. And when I pitched it, I watched my Stripe account go from zero to $105,000 in sales in less than 30 minutes. And that was my first $100,000 day. And at that moment, my life changed. I became a different person. It was the most incredible feeling ever.
Yeah, it's the best. I don't listen. For those people who don't feel like, if you've made a lot of money, and it is a game changer. You are not the same, just like you said. And people say money's evil, but now you just know what you're capable of.
Yeah, I feel like I really became I just changed as a person, in a good way. I just I felt like I had more in the tank. I felt like more of a somebody. So I did that, and I did some more, and we did lots of a ton of 5-figure days along the way. And on March 28th, I bought a Lamborghini because I'm very I like material things. I like cars. That's kind of why I found a passion for entrepreneurship.
Did you pay cash or you finance it?
I put $100,000 down, so they made me put 50% down, and then.
So you bought what kind did you buy?
A Lamborghini Huracan.
Okay, so was it brand new or did you buy a used one?
It's a 2016, so it was used. It was an impulse buy for sure. I walked in and I was like, yeah, I'll take that one.
You're flexing. Listen, there ain't nothing wrong. Okay, first of all, I don't know anybody your age made ever $100,000 in a month or in a day or in whatever. Okay, there's not a lot of people making that kind of money, and it sounds like you got a little bit of takes of the action, right? Like who doesn't want to drive a Lamborghini, And that's awesome.
Exactly, and this is where the story takes a turn here. So I bought the Lambo on March 28th, and I had a lot of people tell me it didn't make sense to buy that car. I was even asking myself that, right?
Yeah.
I was making a lot of money, but I didn't see like a lot of consistency. I wasn't doing it for a year or years. On March 30th, my Instagram got deleted, and I didn't have a lead flow problem. So, I didn't have a lead flow problem, so I wasn't diversifying myself onto different platforms and that sort of thing. So my company went from $275,000 a month to zero in the matter of a day. And this was 2 days after I, bought a Lamborghini. So I just thought my life was over, and, I started hiring all of these people to get my account back.
Why did it get deleted?
Because people, social media in general is a shady thing, and people will pay to have you deleted. People pay to have you deleted, and that's what ended up happening. And that was the first time I ever experienced that. Now I'm diverse and prepared for that to happen at any day, but I wasn't prepared. So
we call that.
Go ahead.
Sleeping with the elephant. And I have experience with this, okay? So back when I was really building my business in 2009, 10, and 11, I had like probably 60 REO accounts, okay, which are accounts with banks and different things. And then I would talk to people who had one. They're like, I got one and I'm serving them great. And I said, you're sleeping with the elephant. They're like, what's that? I'm like, when it rolls over on you, you're toast. Meaning that you're sleeping with such a large animal right next to you and you have nothing else, that if it rolls over on you, deletes you, you're toast.
Yeah, it was a big learning lesson. I'm glad it happened. I have no regrets, but it was hard to go through. And I didn't have an Instagram account for the next 60 days. And I ended up, I wasn't sure if I was going to get it back or if I was going to have to build my own. And that one had like 70-something thousand followers, and my business went to basically zero. And the next 2 months, I was doing anywhere from like $15,000 to $30,000 a month. And then I hired a coach who does about $2 million a month in the coaching business, and they kind of taught me this Facebook model to where I build a Facebook group, and there's a certain framework that we use where we push as much traffic into that group as possible. So I got rid of the VSL. I got rid of we do webinars. I wouldn't call it like a webinar. It's more of like a free training. And we just provide free value. And then it's what I learned is like, you need to, the reason why a lot of these people haven't bought anything yet is because they're not nurtured. You know, for anyone who's in a certain business who's watching this, it's like I was trying to shove these people through the funnel so fast. They need to, you need to let them run at their own course. And you're just like real estate. You go make 100 offers, right? And you go make another 100 offers, and you're just building a pipeline. You can't be focused on that one offer that you made. So did the Facebook group model and scaled back up. In April of this year, I also turned my business into a brokerage. So I sold off the assets, you know, all the box trucks and dump trucks and everything like that. And I had an agreement. I basically sold the operations side of the business off, and now I get royalties every single month. So, you know, when you hear the word passive income, usually you should run. This is like truly passive income for me. Since I built a well-built name, you know, we're on the first page of Google. We get so many leads that I broker all of those leads, and I get, you know, passive income from that. I get a royalty. So I've done that. Now we have about 320 junk removal clients around the country. We've scaled a lot of people to, you know, multiple.
So you control the lead source. Is that what I'm hearing?
For my own company, for Slam Dunk and Junk.
Okay. So do you help those people with leads as well, or is that something that's additional service that you guys charge for?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what I'll say is, you know, when I was growing this business, I only had one product to sell, and then I realized that I watched these people go get a ton of other things, right? They needed a marketing company to do SEO and paid per click and all these other things, to where I knew that in order for me to scale, I needed to branch off into those other services and be a one-stop shop. Basically a franchise that doesn't require all the franchise fees. So it's a lot less to get in the game. And so I started managing clients' social media accounts. I've got a very unique, organic, you know, marketing strategy on social media for junk removal. So I started managing these clients because what I wasn't trying to make money doing it. I was just pissed off that they wouldn't do it themselves. You know how it is. You know, you tell people to go, you know, door knock or, you know, go make 100 offers, and they don't do it. So I was watching these people not post on social media, and I said, guys, you guys bought into this to replicate what I've done or tried to replicate it. You need to do that, right? This is what you bought into. And I just got so mad that people wouldn't do it. So I said, I'm going to create a done-for-you model. So we started managing their accounts, and one of the clients that we were managing, he called me one day and he said, Kyle, this is the biggest thing that you've ever done. You don't even realize it. I was like, oh, you're crazy, man. Like, Junk Academies, you know, great business. And he's like, no, man, Rise Media, which is now the name. He said, this is the biggest thing that you have going for you right now. And I was like, I don't think so. He said, let's meet up. So I met up with this guy, and he ended up cutting me a check for the business and wanted to buy, you know, a percentage of it. It was enough for me to say yes. We now became partners, and this guy, like, we would manage his accounts for $2,000 a month. And he does junk removal and demolition, and demo jobs you're dealing with high ticket. So he was landing, you know, $10,000 jobs, $20,000 jobs, to where the return was insane. So the reason why I wanted to take him on as a partner is because the stories sell more than anything. So I thought that story was amazing for the business itself. And so now we have Rise Media, and my goal with Junk Academy is to help these, like, really, really focused on customer success and customer results, making sure that they get, you know, what they're paying for, making sure that they actually scale their businesses. And then the companies that are going to do over $250,000 a year in revenue, we're going to start to try to pump some money into those businesses, like my personal funds, to try to get some equity and help them scale even further. So that's something we're going to do moving on, and we want to get to the point where we're going to sell them the dump trailers, the dumpsters, the trucks, the apparel, the bandit signs, we'll run their ads, we'll build their websites, we'll do all of that.
So I love that. So you're going from, hey, we're going to teach you how to do it. And that's kind of like where I'm at with a lot of my stuff too, is you're going to go from teaching you where you're at to basically you'll hook up a lot of affiliate type of relationships with manufacturers of dump trailers and manufacturers of dumpsters, and then they don't have to go anywhere else because you got them covered. Like, and then you have recurring revenue. They have consistency in their business and marketing, and and then you're building a bigger company that you can sell off down the road.
Yeah, that's the whole goal there, and have a holding company that also holds those other businesses that we own. Anything like truck related or dumpster related, that's something that I'm just not going to go start from ground up. We'll definitely white label or partner with them, but we're looking to actually start these companies, like the marketing companies, all these things, and have it like our own brand. Because I've white labeled it in the past and stuff like that, but I want my name to be on it, and I want to make sure that like I can take care of them. And when you refer people elsewhere, your name is attached to that no matter what. So I want to make sure that I'm the one who's actually reliable and has full control of giving them the best quality service possible.
All right, man, that's a lot to unpack, Kyle. You've been just spewing gems for a while, and I appreciate you sharing all that with me and with the audience. And you guys, if you're listening right now and you're hearing Kyle's story, he just turned 23. He's like killing it. He bought a Lamborghini. He's doing all these major things. And you also heard you had a ton of setbacks. You had a ton of things that went wrong, and I'm sure are still going to go wrong. That happens all the time. But I guarantee one thing is that you're never working for anybody else yourself again, right?
That's never going to happen.
Right. So I had written down a few things that you had talked about earlier, and I want to go back and talk about these things. So one of the things I want to talk about is, as a union guy, like, guys are loyal to the freaking union. Like, I know a lot of union guys, and you came from, you said generational electricians, right?
Fifth generation.
So your great-great-grandfather was an electrician?
Yeah, like both grandpas were an electrician. My dad was an electrician. My dad was also a business representative for the union. Multiple, like, a lot of my family members were all electricians.
Well, you have the perfect body type for being a good electrician, because good electricians are the ones that can actually get underneath stuff and not break ceilings when they're on top of stuff. And a lot of the electricians these days are not those types of guys. And Kyle is a slender fella that probably could get around pretty good up there. So Kyle, the other question I have for you. So when you said that they sat you, right? The union sat you. You kind of was at that point in time. Did you feel like your wings were clipped?
Yeah, for sure. I was like, I feel like the reason I was sitting was because of COVID, and they didn't really know what was going on at that time. So I was sitting from work, but at that point, like, right before that, I just had a bad attitude. When I'd show up, I'd have a bad attitude, like,
right.
I shouldn't have done that whatsoever.
It worked out.
I should have. Yeah, it worked out. But I just had a bad attitude. So once I left, I was like, I started consuming all this content on social media, and I was like, I can't go back. Like, this is it. And It's so hard, because when you first want to make a move to do something, most people like to go tell everyone about what they're going to do, and then all these people give them their opinions when you shouldn't really take their, advice or their opinions anyway. So it got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove those people wrong.
Yeah, that's how I look at things. Always 100%. It's on a chip on my shoulder. I love the minute somebody tells me I'm not going to do something, it's almost guaranteeing that it's going to happen. And it sounds like you're a lot the same way. Like, you're like, oh, now that would bring me to another question, because now you don't like to be told what to do, I'm guessing, right?
No.
Now, because you seem like a really put together guy, Kyle. How did you do in school?
Man, I was I was not the best student, to be honest with you. I think I graduated with a 2.4 GPA, And
let's go. That's
yeah,
me, brother.
2.4 GPA, and
Yeah.
I was always the bare minimum guy. And yeah, I want to make sure I throw this out there. Like, I was one of those guys where I grew up is like, I just wanted to be average. Like, I feel like I was worried about being below average. So like average was like where I wanted to be. And I don't know what happened after high school. Like, I wanted to be the best of the best when it came to everything. I became extremely competitive. But before, I was a very bare minimum worker, like in school. You know, I do the bare minimum. I wasn't trying to get A's. I was trying to get C's. You know, that was my goal. I just wanted to get a C on this one. I wasn't thinking about getting A's. So I was a bare minimum guy. Now I want to be the best of the best, and I don't want people to think that they can compare themselves to me.
Right. So, and that's the other thing that you mentioned several different times, and I wanted to kind of go through all of them, is that you paid a lot of things out there. There's a lot of fake gurus. We know that. You know that. Especially when you, like, I wasn't ever on social media before, so I just assumed that anybody that's going to get on and tell their story and say who they are, they're truthful. But I didn't realize how many phonies and fakes and bullshitters and all the other crap was out there. So when you get out there and you're starting to hire these mentors, you mentioned that you hired a real estate mentor. Who was that mentor?
So I'm not going to say that mentor's name, but it was a
good relationship.
Yeah, no, it was. It wasn't. It's just not anybody. Like, if I mention it, it's not anybody that's like you would think of. It's not a. What I can say is once I started going to the masterminds and stuff like that, a big person that I can give a shout out to is Austin Rutherford.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah.
I went to his mastermind, his Yacht Mastermind, and like the other mentor, he's just not a big social media guy. That's why I'm not going to mention his name. But Austin, I give him a lot of credibility for like him guiding me through, you know, what I've accomplished in the past year or so, 2 years. And
so Austin, we're going to have a podcast with Austin here in the future. I saw it on my calendar, and I just had a mastermind here in Kansas City a couple weeks ago. And I found out through one of our speakers, which is a really cool guy, Tommy Hart, another young, just a hungry guy like you, 29 years old, just killing the game. I love to see, I always say, like, guys like you, Kyle, they don't make them like that anymore. Like, you're a rare breed, and I'm telling you that. I've got two 10-year-olds, and I'm trying to raise people like yourself, because there's so many people who they don't realize, like I know you know that, like, you can start any business tomorrow and be successful at it because you believe in yourself. You've proven it to yourself before, and you can go do it again. But there's so many people that don't even realize that they're sitting on this wonderful, great country, and I watch all these other people come in. The people who are first generation, they kick ass, they do all these things, and the people who have been here for several generations are like, I don't even know what the hell I got going on, you know? So Austin Rutherford, you mentioned he had a yacht mastermind. Tell me about this.
Yeah. So, and by the way, I know Tommy Har. I was actually, I'm good buddies with Tommy through Austin's mastermind. So that's where I met Tom as well, and a bunch of other good guys. But so Austin's mastermind, I saw he posted like a story. Hey, I'm hosting a yacht mastermind. You know, come on this 100-foot yacht, that sort of thing. And I think it was like $5,000. And you know, I went there. I paid the money to be there, and what I was so used to, like, being the biggest guy in the room in my area, like in O'Fallon, small town O'Fallon, Missouri, and I didn't really I didn't really get rid of the old crew, right? The old friends or anything yet. Yeah. So when I went in that room, I felt like I was, you know, a loser. Is exactly what I felt like. You know,
I've been in that room, Kyle. Yeah. I have been in that same. Like, you go in, you got swagger in your normal place. You walk into another room, and you're the stupidest guy in the room, the poorest guy in the room, and you're like, it elevates you. You want to compete. The competitor comes out, right, Kyle?
100%. And I met a lot of good guys. I got out of my comfort zone. And I'll actually say something else that's pretty crazy. I left these guys at this mastermind. You know, the way it worked is we go on a mastermind. You know, I paid $5,000 to be there. It was about 6 hours, and we were going through Fort Lauderdale, passing all these multi-million dollar homes. And we would sit in a circle and introduce to everyone. And some of these guys are, making millions of dollars with cryptocurrency at the time. Crypto was real big at that time. And one guy said, hey, I'm going to go put my first $100,000 into crypto, this weekend. And I went home and something was telling me that I should have put money into crypto. And I had no idea what I was doing. Nobody should listen to what I'm saying right now because I was pretty dumb here.
But subscribe if you're listening. Subscribe.
Yeah. So I never even heard of Shiba Inu, the cryptocurrency, and I saw maybe somebody posted something about it, and I just, again, going back to the big balls, I put $20,000 into Shiba. And I swear the next day when I woke up, it was $43,000 and I cashed out. And I got extremely lucky. And nothing else. For sure. Nothing else played out like that again. But so the mastermind was great. Met a bunch of good guys. And
how many guys were on that boat?
There was, I'm pretty sure they allow, 12 people to be on there. Then you got your camera guy. And then the rest were just all people that were actually paying, I would imagine. So I would say. Did you tell
Austin that you made more money on the webinar than he did on his yacht excursion?
He knows.
I'm just fun. I like all those guys. Like everybody you're talking about. I haven't even really talked to Austin, but we did a little bit of texting back and forth. You can tell good people and people who are trying to improve other people's lives, and I feel like. And based on what Tommy had kind of told me about him too, I could tell you're surrounding yourself by a lot of good people. So what is next for Kyle? I'm going to forget the Trash King, Big Balls Kyle, man. Let's go with that, man. Because you're definitely going for it. So what's next?
So for me, I'm just focused on becoming the best version of myself. There's so many places where I lack in life, and I want to become the best version of myself. I became a father as well, which I haven't mentioned this year.
Boom. So nice.
In January. So I want to be the best, family man I possibly can. I want to, set myself and my family up for success, and that's really it. Grow my social media as well.
So, did you have a boy or a girl?
I had a girl.
Nice. Yeah, you're gonna find out why they call them daddy's girls. Listen, you just had one. It's beginning. It's brand new. I'm not father of the year by any means. I work too much still, but it's always a goal to be more present, to do more things. And I think that what you're saying is totally respectable, and I applaud it. And I think that being the best version of yourself is what we should all do, right? Because if we all did that, we'd all have a better country. We'd all have a better relationship with other people. And I think that that's a very, very honorable goal to have, Kyle. I want to ask you a few questions before we kind of wrap things up. And the question I want to ask you is, you're a young person right now, and there's a lot of people out there that just spend hours on time on social media, and they never do anything. Maybe they have these aspirations to do things. Like you said, sometimes it's not their time. But a lot of the people that take action, that want it, like the younger version of me, I've been in that room I didn't get going until I was 28, but I had those opportunities. I was scared, right? The younger version, the you who wanted the average. What do you tell that person who's listening right now, who's like, man, Kyle's story's super inspiring. How do I start a business? How do I get started like Kyle? What would you tell them?
The first thing I want to say is I'm relatable. You guys do not understand. My family wasn't rich. My family weren't entrepreneurs. Nothing was have me bound to be where I'm at today other than my decisions and only my decisions. And you have to ask yourself how bad you really want it, right? And
bingo.
You can talk about it all day long, and you can be one of those guys.
Bingo.
You see those guys all the time, but what I learned is don't really talk about it, because you're going to let yourself down. And other people aren't going to believe in you when you say, hey, I'm going to go invest into real estate, and then you never do anything. So you almost want to connect with the people who are actually doing it. Connect with guys like Troy, connect with guys like Ryan or Austin or me or Go find people who are actually living the life that you want to live. And when you talk to them, they're going to be giving you the words, the sentences that you need to hear to actually take action. And it's down to you to really take action. Do you want it bad enough? That's what it comes down to. And if you don't want it, then there's out there that somebody else is willing to do it, and they're going to run you over.
I love that, man. You're giving me chills right now because, you get so many people, like even your friends, you get these people that are close to you and you're like trying to help them out and they're telling you what they want, what they're going to do and all this other crap. And I remember I had a really good friend for a lot of years and, I would talk to my other good friend about him and I was like, man, I'm trying to help. He's like, how bad does he really want it? And that just stuck in my head. So when you said that again, I'm like, it always, when people want something, like, could be me, I'm trying to get in shape right now. But if I'm not in shape, it's because I don't want it freaking bad enough. If we're watching this podcast next year and I haven't made progress, then I didn't want it bad enough. I know that, you know that, and everybody else knows that, right? So if you're sitting here listening to Kyle, who is 23 years old and made $100,000 in one freaking day and made millions of dollars throughout his small career. When I mean small career, he's been active for what, 2.5 years?
Yeah, three to four, three
okay,
years.
So it's small. He's like, are you financially free?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I do have an expensive taste, so I feel like the way that I live my life is like I think what keeps me motivated and driven is like I know that at any day I could lose it all. Just like I felt like I lost it all on March 30th, right? Like at any day something can change, and like that's why what I do is intentional. And again, if I have bad days, I have plenty of bad days, I have bad weeks, and it all comes down to that question of how bad do I actually want it?
Right. So let me give you a couple of pieces of advice from just an older version of yourself. Okay. So I believe right now that you're making a ton of money, you're kicking ass and you're doing awesome, amazing things. And I applaud that. And I think you said you got expensive taste and you like to live life. The biggest thing that I am thankful for that I did at a young age and continue to do at an old age is travel the world. And I just want to tell you, like, you're a really cool guy. I really enjoy having you on this podcast. You make a lot of money. Go travel the freaking world because you are going to learn so much about yourself. Even if you go by yourself, like backpack through freaking Europe, go through freaking Asia. When 2012 happened, me and my buddy, we rolled out to Asia. Like in 2005, I went to Europe, and this year I'm going to Brazil in April with a friend, and we're going to backpack around and Panama and all this other stuff. Like and the reason I say that is I want to say this is like, think about how much those masterminds changed your vision of things, right? By being around other people. When you go to when we go to other countries, we look at how other people live and we see what's going on over there and we see this and we see that, and we get richer inside. When we come back here, we're refueled and we're ready to kick ass, man. So if you're not a big traveler, I suggest you talk to me about traveling, because I got that thing covered. I know how to travel for free. I know how to travel large, meaning like, I know you like to live large. I know how to live large on a cheap budget. So if you ever want any advice on that, I'd be happy to help you.
I love it, man. We'll have to get a mastermind. We'll have to host a mastermind here in the future.
I'm hosting one on March in Kansas City, in the building that I bought in downtown Kansas City. And if you want to come down, I'd love to have you.
Yeah, let me know the dates. And I'll
yeah, for sure.
If I can make it, I'll definitely be there.
Yeah, we'd love to have you be as a speaker. So not just someone there to go and like sit in the audience. We want you to tell your story, because as you said earlier in the podcast, stories inspire, and you got one hell of an inspiring story. And I'm glad it's not you retiring as a union electrician after 30 years on the job with a broken back and a bunch of, probably smoking a pack a day like most of those guys are doing. I think you're cool. So for people who are listening, they want to follow your story. Obviously, give Kyle a 5-star review. Share this video with a friend. But for those of you who want to follow your journey, what's your Instagram handle? How do they get a hold of you?
So the best way to reach me is Kyle. Just look up my name, Kyle Landwehr, Landwehr. 11 in most cases. That's on TikTok and Instagram. You can find me on YouTube. You can check out the Pineda podcast as well. If you just look up Kyle Landwehr junk removal on YouTube, you'll be able to find that. And Troy, man, love what you're doing. Keep on crushing it. I need a house like yours, so that's the next step. But
bro, listen, let me tell you something. I took a lot of sacrifices. I'm building 2 right now. I just finished that one. The other one's almost done in Naples.
Wow, that's awesome. But man, I really appreciate you, and it's blessed to have me on this podcast.
Yeah, we're blessed to have you here, man. I appreciate you coming on, and I definitely am a fan of yours and will continue to be. I love guys who've got chips on their shoulders. You're looking at one right here. If you don't have a chip on your shoulder, you should get one because it's going to get you out of the couch, get you off whatever. Guys, make sure you give Kyle a follow. Make sure you follow his success. I know there's going to be other businesses that are being started. Just as sure as there's a floor under my feet, he will be starting another business or something else soon because you're a serial entrepreneur. I really appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
All right. Peace, guys.
Did you ever want to invest in real estate? Did you ever want to live the life of your dreams? Did you want financial freedom? Did you want to break the generational curse? Did you want to help your parents out? Did you want to help your mom out? Maybe you work for a job that you don't like. They say there's only one reason to work a job, and that's to learn, right? If you're not learning at your job, you're just going through the motions, right? We have a free Facebook group, the Millionaire Mentorship Facebook group for real estate investing. Make sure you join. The link is in the description. If you want to schedule a free call with me and my team and you actually want to start, I would suggest you do so. We have helped hundreds of people change their lives, and all they had to do was get started. They booked a call with me and my team, and they got the ball rolling. And I'm so confident that if you don't get your first or next investment property within the first 90 days, you don't pay, and I'll give you $1,000 cash. That's how confident I am. Obviously, you got to take action. You can't just do nothing and expect that to happen, but that's life. Life's all about taking action. Make sure you give this podcast a 5-star review, share it with a friend, and take action.